Greyson from Two Dudes in a Six Pack, and I'm going to be reviewing Sam Adams Light for you. If you caught our first episode of our podcast, we talked about light beer, and I actually was going to review the Sam Adams Light on that episode, but I didn't have a bottle opener on me, and Sam Adams, you need a bottle opener. So I thought I'd make up for that and make the Sam Adams Light my very first review of this section. And so, since our show is Two Dudes in a Six Pack, my review is going to be broken down into 6 different sections. It's going to be taste, smell, value for the price, drinkability, distinction, and would I buy it again? And going through all those, I can tell you if it is a good price for a 6-pack or not. So, anyways, I'm generally not a big light beer drinker, but this Sam Adams Light is very, it's distinct. It's much different than your normal light beer I've found. It's definitely much more of an amber color to it. It's not as clear as your normal light beer, and you can really it really reflects in the flavor. I mean, it's not as heavy as your normal Boston Lager from Sam Adams, and that's obvious, but I still feel this light beer actually has a lot more flavor than a lot of normal beers that you might find out there, which is rather surprising for really any of the light beers you've ever had before. This one probably has more flavor, and so if you're looking for a light beer without as many calories but still sustains a good portion of the flavor, I definitely do Sam Adams. There's like a hint, a little bit of hint, almost a little cherry undertones to it, and it's not harsh, it's not bitter. So if you're not a big IPA fan or pale ale or anything like that, you don't have to worry about that. So honestly, for a light beer, taking into consideration that that's what this is, I'm gonna definitely recommend it on the taste. Now, as for smell, if like any other beer drinker, you have smelled light beer, and a lot of times, as soon as you pop that top on a light beer, it already smells skunked. It already smells sour. It has like that sour mash smell. That's just it's not pleasing. This does not have that at all. If you just popped it and you smelled it, it would just smell like a tamed down normal beer, which is fantastic. It's very refreshing when you're looking at light beers, and that's what this one is. So for smell, again, I'm gonna have to rate it a full beer out of the 6-pack. So now we're 2 for 2. Now we move on to value for price. When you compare most light beers are relatively inexpensive. Usually going with a Coors or a Bud Light, Miller Lite, or something less than that, like a Busch Light or something like that. Sam Adams is going to cost more, for sure. That's kind of what you're getting into. Granted, Sam Adams is the largest solely American-owned brewery in the country now. So the prices aren't as high as what you might find for a microbrew, but it's going to be higher than your normal Bud Light. With that being said, for the flavor and for everything you get out of it, I would go for that. I think the value for what you're getting in return is really worth it. So if you're okay with spending a little bit more than your normal Bud Light or your average light beer, totally spring for this. I definitely recommend it. It's definitely, the value for the price is exceptional. Drinkability, I kind of look at it as, can you drink multiple of the beers in one setting? Some beers are just so harsh, so overpowering, you can drink one and that's it. You're not drinking a second one. And some beers aren't designed for that. A light beer is designed to be consumed in quantity. You don't buy a light beer and drink one of them. There's a reason why light beer normally comes in a 30 case. It's because you're not drinking one and parlaying it off the next 30 days. That's not what happens. So if I was going for a light beer and I needed to drink it nonstop, and I say I was going to a party or whatever, and I wanted to drink beer after beer after beer after beer, I could definitely. This is definitely a drinkable beer that's got more flavor than my normal light beer. So yes, this gets the 1 out of 1 drinkability factor for sure. Now, fifth out of 6 is distinction. The only way you can really fairly compare this is if you compare it to other light beers. And since if you want a normal beer or a non-light beer, you're not going to buy this. The only way you're going to buy this is if you're in your market for a light beer and you want something with a little more flavor. However, when you're just comparing it against normal light beers, for sure, this has a very distinct flavor. It's when it hits your mouth, you don't cringe. It's not just watered down beer. Sometimes you'll have a light beer and there's really no flavor at all. This has flavor. It's something you can enjoy. It's something if during the middle of the summer you feel like having a beer but not draining all the calories, for sure. So this one, I definitely give it the distinction factor over other beers in the same category. And lastly, would I buy it again? It kind of is just, it depends. I'm not a light beer drinker. I like other kinds of beers. Even though this does have flavor in it, it's not as powerful. It's not as pungent. It's not as aromatic as what you'll find with other beers out there. If I had to buy a light beer, I'd go with this one. If I knew somebody that wanted a light beer and I was buying them some, I'd go with this one. So on the account that I wouldn't buy it unless I had to buy a light beer, I'm going to give this one a half out of 1. So for, a final score of 5.5 out of 6, considering, all the factors involved, this is probably the best light beer out there, and I do recommend Sam Adams Light if you're in the market for a light beer and that's what you're going for. So that is the little episode, and I hope you enjoy it. If you've had the light beer before, please feel free to leave comments and tell me what you think about the beer. Maybe you hate my rating. That's fine. I'd love to hear it. Just let me know. And if you'd like to check out more, you can check out our podcast at 2 Dudes in a Six Pack. You can find that on iTunes or Stitcher or wherever you get your podcasts. And you can also follow us on Twitter at 2 Dudes Podcast. So until next time, cheers.